Lord of Mysteries 2, Circle of Inevitability. Chapter 124, Method of Self-Protection. As planned, Lumion circled the vicinity of Maison Café in Quartier du Jardin Botanique before making his way back to Auberge du Coq d'Or on Rue Anarchy. He headed straight for the third floor and arrived at room 310, where the lunatic resided. Bang! 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 He hammered on the door. "I'm dying! I'm dying!" The wailing from inside grew frantic. "I'm F***king dying too!" Lumion spat, his face expressionless. Startled by his response, the lunatic fell silent and offered no reply. Lumion didn't knock again. He produced a small wire he carried with him, inserted it into the keyhole, and fidgeted with it. With a click, the grimy brown wooden door swung open. Inside, Lumion found the madman, clad in a linen shirt and yellow pants, kneeling with his thick black beard nearly covering his eyes. Lumion entered and casually closed the door. He crouched before the lunatic and lowered his voice. "I've encountered the Monsieur's ghost too." The lunatic visibly trembled, his fear-filled blue eyes showing the faintest glimmer of lucidity. After a few seconds he caught his breath and asked in a deep voice, "Are you sure it was the Monsieur's ghost? He's in that state of intermittent lucidity Charlie mentioned?" Lumion smirked and replied, "I don't know. That's why I'm asking you to confirm it. What did the Monsieur's ghost you saw look like?" With a shiver, the lunatic described a black shadow, like a lonely old man. Its back was slightly hunched, and it moved very slowly. After I spotted it, it vanished into the darkness. I didn't realize it was the Monsieur's ghost until my parents, my wife, and my children started dying one after another. It's eerily similar to my experience." Lumion frowned, suspecting that he had indeed encountered the Monsieur's ghost. He contemplated for a moment. "How did your family die? Were you attacked?" The lunatic hastily shook his head. I often felt something watching me from the shadows. But I didn't face anything else. Otherwise, I wouldn't have made it this far. My child became gravely ill and died in the hospital. We had just cleansed and interred him in the catacombs when my wife, snapped and hanged herself in our room. That's when I recalled the legend of the Monsieur's ghost. I took my parents to the cathedral and asked the padre there to protect us. The church took it very seriously and assigned 3 clergymen to stay at my home. Nothing happened during that time. I thought the nightmare was over. But after the New Year, the clergyman left. Soon after, my father strangled my mother and ended his own life with a table knife. I can't remember much after that. Sometimes I wake up and realize that I moved here at some point." The lunatic's blue eyes revealed unmasked anguish. Lumion felt like a tightly wound spring, ready to snap at any moment. "They said the Monsieur's ghost would kill anyone who encountered it back then. But this lasted until the New Year." Lumion keenly noticed the lunatic's account differed from the legend. The lunatic shook his head. "I don't know why it happened. I thought the nightmare was over. Otherwise, the 3 clergymen wouldn't have left." "A curse with no time limit until all targets are dead?" Lumion formed a new hypothesis about the Monsieur's ghost legend. He stood up and told the lunatic, "I might have encountered the Monsieur's ghost too. Let's see which one of us lasts longer. If I figure out how to break this curse, you can pay me to help you." A solution. The corners of the lunatic's mouth twitched as he echoed Lumion's words, caught between tears and laughter. He raised his hands and clutched his hair. "I'm dying! I'm dying!" Lumion intended to ask the lunatic's name, something to inscribe when he was laid to rest in the cemetery or catacombs, but he shook his head, opened the door, and left room 310 instead. Back in room 207, Lumion sat on the bed, mulling over how to break the curse brought by the Monsieur's ghost. Although theoretically, the curse might not take effect until year's end, leaving no urgency for now, Lumion couldn't rely on the Monsieur's ghost's apparent delay. Moreover, he had no immediate family, so he stood a high chance of being the curse's first victim. It could happen in the latter half of the year, next week, or even tonight. Come to think of it, that man might still be alive. If the Monsieur's ghost could help me kill him, I'd owe it a debt of gratitude. Lumien's thoughts raced, and he suddenly laughed at himself. In the dream, he had lied to Ryan and the others, claiming he'd forgotten his original name. He simply wanted to avoid mentioning or remembering it. When he was young, his family had been well off, but the man he called father turned out to be a philanderer and later a gambling addict. His mother died from grief-induced illness, and his grandfather went bankrupt. They lived together in the slums until his grandfather's death a few years later. Thus, after being adopted by Aurora, Lumien had willingly asked to take her last name and change his own. Lumien didn't know if the man who had only provided genetic material was dead or alive. If he was dead, it was a blessing. If not, he hoped the Monsieur's ghost would step up its game. As for himself, Lumien dared not assume the Monsieur's ghost wouldn't harm him just because he harbored the taint of an evil god and the mark of a great existence. As long as it didn't possess him, the ghost could do anything. According to Madame Magician, Lumien was convinced that many Beyonders and monsters could easily kill him, but they would have to face the ensuing corruption as a consequence. I'm not certain if this is a curse or not. But I can't just sit here waiting for death. I have to take action. Aurora used to say that the best skill for the weak, or underage, is finding their parents. With this in mind, Lumien's eyes brightened. He stood up and walked to the table to find a pen and paper. He planned to update Madame Magician on the mission's progress. Simultaneously, he would mention his encounter with the Monsieur's ghost, questioning if he had been cursed and how to address the issue. Though the woman with the magician code name wasn't his parent, she was undoubtedly his superior in the current circumstances. It was logical to seek assistance from his superior when in trouble. Lumien pondered for a moment before writing. Esteemed Madame Magician, I have followed your instructions and gained Ostatrel's trust. I've also requested his introduction to Mr. K's mysticism gathering. On my return from the catacombs, I regrettably encountered the legendary Monsieur's ghost. Of course, I cannot be certain. The specific legend is as such. I seek to know if I have been cursed by the Monsieur's ghost or if another influence is at play. How should I proceed? Towards the end, Lumien intentionally added the code name, Seven of Wands, to remind the recipient not to overlook his status as an external member of their enigmatic organization. Lumien deduced this from the lady's use of the tarot card's magician code name and his Seven of Wands. He suspected Madame Magician might belong to a clandestine organization symbolized by tarot cards and devoted to a powerful entity. The major arcana were official members, each possessing formidable abilities. The minor arcana served as peripheral members who undertook various missions. After folding the letter, Lumien meticulously cleaned the room. He crushed a few bedbugs that had crept in from next door and disposed of them in the bathroom trash can. Once done, he lit the candle and conjured a spiritual barrier to summon Madame Magician's messenger in his name. Before long, the candle flame transformed into a deep blue hue. This time, an arm-height, doll-like messenger in a light gold dress materialized atop the flames, floating there. Its unfocused, light blue eyes scanned the surroundings before gently nodding. Much better than last time. The voice was otherworldly and ghostly, far from human-like. Truth be told, I'm not fond of those bedbugs either, Lumien chimed in. The doll messenger smiled. Right? No creature appreciates those pests. Lumien sensed a shared sentiment, as if both sides despised the same thing. With that, the doll messenger extended a pale white palm, devoid of any skin texture, and the letter floated up. Lumien watched the doll, seized the letter and vanish like a bursting bubble. He sighed with admiration and thought, having a messenger is so convenient. After concluding the ritual and tidying up the wooden table, Lumien returned to the bed, awaiting the messenger's response. As time passed, the night outside deepened. Songs echoed from the underground bar, but Lumien received no reply from Madame Magician. This made him furrow his brow. Does Madame Magician have other matters to handle and no time to read my letter? I can't keep waiting. I must devise other ways to protect myself. Neither Hunter nor Provoker grant me the power to combat curses, if it is indeed a curse. Dancer doesn't either. Unless I genuinely pray to that concealed entity after the sacrificial dance. But how would that differ from suicide? If I can't pray to that hidden being, I can seek out that great existence. I bear his seal upon me. I even obtained his permission when I claimed the boon. I'm not afraid to beseech him again. Yes, I can entreat him to help me lift this curse. Lumion acted swiftly, setting up the altar. Since Madame Magician hadn't specifically outlined the ingredients for the great existence's domain, Lumion believed that whatever he employed wouldn't impact the final outcome, as long as it didn't invoke other deities. He arranged orange candles made of citrus and lavender. 2 symbolized the deity, and 1 represented himself. After completing the preparations, Lumion stepped back and examined the 3 yellowish candles. He recited in Hermes, "The fool that doesn't belong to this era, the mysterious ruler above the gray fog, the king of yellow and black who wields good luck,